only this percentage of people who watch are subscribed. Smash that sub button and click that bell. Don't miss out and join the crew. And starting in 3, 2. Forgot to get the timer out.
Gives me time to clear my throat.
Dorkos and Weirdoz.
Welcome to the Dorkos and Weirdoz podcast, the show where we talk to creatively strange and nerdy people. I'm Kai Jordan, your host, and today my special guest is someone who I've had the pleasure of being recommended by my dear friend Martin, who is also a guest on the show, and I've had the pleasure of checking out his content. I thought he was looking for interviews and stuff like that, and I thought, hey, might as well invite him on the show. How are you doing, special guest? How would you like to introduce yourself, special guest?
Sure. So my name is Special Guest, but normally my name is Stanpai. And yeah, no, the timing I think lined up perfectly. Is I had some open time during this month to look around and see what shows were ongoing. So it was a nice little match made in heaven. A little bit about myself. I'm an all-around creator. I describe myself often as a digital media red mage. For those who understand the reference, then that you're the people that my demographic generally targets. I am a person who makes video content on YouTube regularly, usually a new upload every week, covering all the different things that I'm personally interested in, which can vary quite a bit, but tend to gravitate around things like video games, anime, otomads, and other fun and sometimes unusual topics. And in my daily life, I work on radio doing reports for traffic, and I also work as an actor. So that's me. Hi, everybody.
Cool. Sounds like a good introduction. All right. With that first thing, when it comes to your content, the very first, some of the very first videos I ever watched from your channel, were brought because two things were coming. I think both the Castlevania anime was being released on Netflix, and I was watching JoJo Prefers You, and then you just so happened to release a video about what if Jonathan Joestar was in Castlevania, and you did another one on Simon Belmont for the reverse situation if he was in Phantom Blood. And I thought they were very fascinating breakdowns on both the game's situation and how they would play out. So, in regards to Castlevania, what is the best and worst kind of game from that franchise? What do you say this is Castlevania right here, and this is dog shit?
Okay, cool. Well, that's a very powerful first question. I'll start by saying that Castlevania for me was a series that I took a very long time to formally get into. My first Castlevania was Circle of the Moon on the Game Boy Advance, and so that was the first time I ever played one. And in a more modern setting, I took up the NES titles, though really only spent time with the first one, really. I played 3 a little bit. It was too much for me. But in my personal opinion, having played original Castlevania and having sampled things of the Metroidvania genre, they're two different creatures entirely.
Yeah.
So to me, a great Castlevania game is classic Vania style. It's you have a linear start and end point. There's no backtracking through maps. It's just go through with your whip and kill some baddies. Most people I have found prefer the Metroidvania style made popular by Symphony of the Night. That's not really my preference. I understand why they like it. There's a lot of quality there. And long story short, if you're not wielding a whip, it's not really Castlevania in my eyes. But that's, clearly most people use Alucard. So I guess that kind of goes out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. My first introduction was mainly through, because I had a friend who played one of the PlayStation 2 games, something of Innocence or whatever.
Lament of Innocence?
Yeah, that one. And I was intrigued by I knew very little information about it. I knew it had something to do with monsters and stuff, but then I saw James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, do his little marathon.
Oh yeah.
Vampires and all this stuff. That's what this game's about. Because I thought it was just backtrack, but then I realized, oh wait, it's a platformer and it's been going on for a while. And
absolutely,
I played admittedly, I played some ROMs of it, like the ones that they had on the Wii. When they had specifically Castlevania 3 was the first one I did, and the first one as well. But goddamn, those are hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
just like the knockback and the static movements. Belmont, Simon sure loves doing that fucking strut. That's for sure.
Well, the Belmont strut is iconic, but in regards to the difficulty issue, yes, it's hard, but the counter that was said by the dev team at the time was even if it's difficult, Simon can take multiple hits. Mario
Yeah.
dies in one hit, maybe two if you have a mushroom. So
yeah.
is he really that? I think he's pretty tough, you know. I think
Yeah.
it's just, you know, Mario in that environment, I think does way worse.
Yeah.
He just has more control with his jumping, but
Yeah.
beyond that, yeah.
You just need a fire flower to cover you, but I'm like, yeah, at least Simon has like a health bar or something, you know?
Right, yeah. In terms of accessibility, Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo is the perfect median for a new player to get started. That's if anybody's interested in checking out Castlevania.
Yeah, legit.
It's
And
an excellent
yeah.
game.
Yeah. And then like I look back at something like because I know James Rolfe, like he has like a love-hate relationship with uh Castlevania 2, which is
Mhm.
Simon's Quest, which I'm sure like there are good aspects. It seemed from what I could tell, I never played it personally, but I can tell like it was very ambitious. It was trying to cover an RPG sort of thing, but the problem is, from what I can tell at least, it's just it was poorly paced and it just sort of it makes you wait. There's so much fucking waiting and it's just all over the place with its ideas. Thankfully they found a way to kind of make it work with the later adaptations like Symphony of Night and stuff like
Correct,
that. But
yeah.
it's
You
just
know,
yeah.
that whole era of the NES, what we have is a lot of games that were very successful, like the first Castlevania, the original Super Mario Brothers, the original Legend of Zelda, and Mega Man. And of the four I just named, only Super Mario Brothers and Mega Man had a sequel that was exactly like the first game in Japan.
Yeah.
Mario 2 in the US being very different, but both Zelda and Castlevania tried something a little different with their sequels, and
Yeah.
those two games tend to not be favored by fans.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, I respect the ambition to try something new because, frankly, I mean, now we live in an era in which rehashing the same thing is status quo, and Breath of the Wild was a success purely because it broke away from Zelda conventions. So I mean, kind of going
Yeah.
back to that again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Bernie Burns said something around the lines of like people want to be given something new, but also not really.
They'll
And I
buy
don't
the same
yeah.
thing. Like, what
Yeah.
message do you want to send to the developers? You know,
Yeah.
if they
Exactly.
make a new IP, are you going to buy it?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah. That's yeah. And then in terms of other stuff regarding are there any like out of all the members of the Belmont family, who sticks in your mind as like this dude is my man? This
Oh
guy
no,
is the
Simon Belmont. Yeah, it's
yeah.
Simon Belmont, and I mean, I could give you a Belmont breakdown across all the different power levels. You know, like Julius is the strongest because they get stronger every generation because of their Belmont Warlord chromosome. What am I talking about? Read the instruction manual for the Castlevania 3. But it's just like that. All aside, Simon Belmont, for a couple of reasons. The first foremost, he's the original, right? And
Yeah.
when it came to Smash characters, I've wanted Simon since Brawl. So
Right.
I was really excited when he was confirmed officially. Like my number one character request, if I could only pick one, was Travis Touchdown. But
Yeah.
after Solid Snake was confirmed, I thought, oh man, like we need to have Simon Belmont. And so for me, he's my main in Ultimate, and like there's no
Yeah.
other character that I use nearly as much. But
Yeah.
to briefly summarize, original Belmont for the games for the players, he is a Belmont who does his quests completely by himself. Almost every other Belmont relies on having a partner, with the exception of Christopher Belmont from Castlevania: The Adventure on the Game Boy games.
Yeah.
And you know, he kills Dracula more than once in his lifetime. Usually, that's a one and done deal.
Yeah.
He screws up, but then goes and fixes his own mistake. And he's also just been in the most Castlevania games. I mean, they've remade the first one a number of times, be it Super Castlevania 4 and things like that, as well as other releases of it. So Simon Belmont's just the most recurring character, and to me, he is Castlevania.
Yeah. I believe that. Yeah. And I'm super like even with even in Smash Ultimate, I was super happy when my dude Keith Silverstein got to play him.
Oh
Like it
yeah,
was
man,
really
he's
awesome.
fantastic.
Yeah.
He's an awesome actor, and I'm so glad that he is the voice of Simon Belmont.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, it's funny because like he was Speedwagon and JoJo,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like it's just weird. It's just amazing to hear such a charismatic actor play such a legendary figure of this franchise of some sorts.
Without a doubt, yeah. A few years back, he was a guest at a convention here in Florida. I'm from the state of Florida,
Right.
I sat in and I wasn't familiar with him, the person, just things he had done, and hearing him
Mhm.
speak and hearing advice he gave and things like that were among the most valuable I've personally ever heard at conventions.
Yeah.
Even just suggesting what books to read and things like that. It was a very valuable session. So much respect to Keith. He's the man.
Yeah. And speaking as I mentioned earlier with JoJo, like just taking one look at your channel, but from the channel banner and all that stuff, everyone can tell that you're a JoJo fan, and
Oh,
it's a yes, indeed, a
yeah,
franchise that continues to rise in popularity
yeah,
and enter the mainstream media. Like I remember, like there was a point in time, especially with all its dank memes and whatnot. Like there was a
yeah.
point in time, like in 2000, like in the early 2000s when I was in high school, where everyone was like,
Mm,
what the fuck is a JoJo?"
right, right.
And then years later, it's surged in popularity, as it's gotten more localized and through Viz's manga and also various releases of the anime on Toonami
Hmm.
and whatnot. And of course, we've seen many sorts of dank memes through it. Like JoJo just seems like I'm quoting someone else here, but JoJo just seems to be a franchise that just kind of transcends memes and all that stuff. Like it just lasts forever in that sense, where it's just like it's always funny. Like they always find a way to make it work.
Yeah,
And
no, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, for me, JoJo was a thing. I've been a JoJo fan, I guess, for maybe 7 years now. Which
okay,
I remember when I first started being a fan of it, I felt like the newbie because I had a couple friends who knew what it was. This was right; they had already made the first anime, the JoJo, David production anime at that
yeah,
point, and my friends had watched it and read some of the manga. And I apologize. I've apologized for this many times, but I'll apologize once again to my college roommate for ruining JoJo for him because I got
oh no,
so into it.
oh no,
I was posing every 2 seconds and like it was nonstop. Like, and even now, if the environment I record in, I have so much JoJo stuff around me at all times.
yeah,
I have a Killer Queen figure sitting on my desk that within hand reach right now. I just, yeah, I'm constantly surrounded by JoJo.
yeah,
Obviously, as you said, my channel's entire aesthetic is JoJo, and it's because to me, there's so much that JoJo brings to the table, and brought for me as a person at the time. I was very much, once I started reading it, just avidly continuing, and the only things I've ever read faster than JoJo were Fist of the North Star and Berserk.
right,
But I think that also has to do with just the number of total chapters. And I mean, JoJo, yeah, like, it's nice when you live in a state where a JoJo part takes place, so that's exciting.
yeah,
You get part 6 in Florida, and I've made jokes at JoJo panels at conventions where I talk
yeah,
about like local flavor, basically, and but yeah, JoJo for me, it's a groundbreaker. I would say, like, most people can agree, its narrative beats are not where it's strongest. It's strongest for its characters because
yeah,
they are such people. And
yeah.
I've read Araki's book Manga Theory and Practice, and
Yes, dude, I was supposed to ask you about that.
yeah, it's
Yes.
it's a great book for storytelling across all mediums. I would say not just manga, though it offers insight to manga. And it's very valuable to see his creative process for making new characters, just
Right.
how much they are fleshed out like real people, and I think
Yeah.
that's what makes them so compelling.
Yeah, just the effort, like, he has these character sheets and stuff, like, he'll write down
Yeah.
a character's blood type, their favorite food, and all that, just like it's like one of my friends, Hirano told me that it's like you're filling out a tax sheet for a character, and
Right, right, yeah.
it's good stuff, though, because then you get to know them more, and he said
Yeah.
something to the effect of, "If you have strong characters, you'll be invincible," and it's
That's
true.
right. Yeah, it's 100% true. People will stick for the character. I mean, look at any long-lasting series that still runs today. I mean, JoJo is special because he's been able to kind of restart and reboot with every single new part, and especially with Steel Ball Run, a total reboot. But
Yeah.
introducing a new slew of characters, which helped avoid, power creep, which other shows and especially shonen stories just suffer from tremendously. Looking at you, Dragon Ball, the power levels get so insane, whereas JoJo is just no. Now we got a new guy at level 1. I've liked to make the comparison for JoJo that it's written in the same vein as Dragon Quest or Final
Okay.
Fantasy, where I think Dragon Quest is a more apt comparison because Final Fantasy changes a little bit too dramatically between titles. But Dragon Quest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on, especially the first 3, they're related, but you're starting with a brand new character level 1. And that's what each JoJo part is like. It's like a new Dragon Quest game. And part 3 is explicitly designed like an RPG. So it really ties in very well. And I'm a big fan of that. I think it's awesome. It's a good way to keep things fresh without overusing characters. Jotaro may have overdone it a bit, but I mean I like him, so I don't complain about it.
Yeah. In regards to like I've talked with the reason I got into JoJo in the first place was because a lot of my friends were in it. Like eventually some of my friends did get into it, true to that. But like Kira Buckland before she actually I actually know because the test stub was out at the time. But yeah, no, she's like if you follow her Twitter or anything like that,
She's a hardcore JoJo.
Yeah, and I met her in person a few times, with one of my friends who was running this sports thing that he was doing, and she was there as a DJ, and, like, we were talking about anime shows we were watching. I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm currently, like, marathoning One Piece again, and I'm going through a lot of other stuff, like, I'm rewatching this show here and there," and they're telling me, "Hey, you seen JoJo yet?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Stop whatever you're doing and do that." I'm like, "Okay." And then I listened to the opening, I listened to the opening Sonochi no Sadame 500 times, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"I think I need to check this out." And then I did, and I really liked it. And even though, like, people say, like, "Yeah, that's not as good as the other parts," and I'm like, I get that, like, especially in retrospect, but as someone who is a fan of gothic horror, of stuff like Castlevania, Hellsing,
Yeah.
and whatnot, I just loved that atmosphere. Granted, I really got into the show with part 2 and part 3, especially with the stand system. And
Well,
part 4 is when it cemented, "Alright, I love this franchise."
yeah, for sure. I mean, looking back for me, and you can tell how much I've spent in part 1 because of my JoJovania videos. I've really spent a lot of time living there, working in that environment, really going through part 1 and 2. Or I'm sorry, part 1 of Castlevania. I mean, part 1 and 2 of my JoJovania series. But
Yeah.
back and forth between Jonathan Joestar or the setting of Phantom Blood. And the more I look at it, the more I love it. It's a simple, pure story that is as plain as day, good versus evil. And there's so much room. It was his first part of JoJo. He could have known it would explode into what it is. But to me, that purity
Yeah.
is what makes it special. Part 2 for a while was my favorite after I finished it, but then part 4 took over, and nothing topped that until part 7.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely a diehard, but I give respect where it's due for Phantom Blood. It's for sure highly inspirational to me. Obviously, with my content, JoJo's so at my core. So I mean, much love, and also I have a dub for a it's just a fan project I did out of love for it for a
Mhm.
dojin. It's
Mhm.
the it's called uh Until We Eternally Rest, I believe. It's originally a fan work that switches Jonathan and Dio's role in the story. Jonathan gets turned into the vampire, and
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal manga on its own right. Even as a fan work, it is where if you would compare Phantom Blood to Castlevania, then I would compare this one to the Frankenstein novel, and
Okay.
it's really worth checking out by Virginia Room for those who want to look into that. It's a phenomenal fan work.
Fascinating. I think I read, like, an untranslated issue at one point, like, I just saw, like, a few pages of it, and I found it to be
Hmm.
very fascinating because I love switcheroo stories like that, where they
Yeah.
take one character and they switch it around, like, there's this Dragon Ball Sai thing where it was like, what if Vegeta and Goku switched places where Vegeta landed on Earth and he
Hmm.
was just as
Hmm.
powerful as he is, and then Goku just remained Kakarot, and then the
Yeah.
reason why he got so strong is because he kept getting his ass kicked.
Right.
And yeah, it was very fascinating. I love stories like that, and especially with like, the community of JoJo is just a very passionate one, especially,
Oh
like,
yeah.
you can tell, like, just from the voice actors or even just the fans are talking about, like, fucking Mick Lauer voice
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
Abakio, has his own fan series.
Yeah,
Friggin-
I did an interview with him,
Yeah,
covering that extensively. Mick is awesome.
yeah,
I'll start by
he is.
saying that the dude is aside from being just an awesome person, he is a hardcore true JoJo fan,
Yeah,
longer than
he is.
most people have been alive.
Yeah,
Most modern
yeah,
JoJo fans have been alive less time than he has been a
yeah.
JoJo fan.
Oh, I'll never forget. I'll never forget. Like, just like this is the same person. Like Mick is just a talent. He's just one of those guys that's like that has a lot of tricks under his sleeve. He's an
Yeah, he's an
animator, an
all-rounder.
artist, and yeah, he's an animator, artist, and like
Actor.
yeah, actor. And he's also been in some podcasts. Like, there's literally a podcast called The Sleepy Cast where he
Yeah, yeah.
like this. Well, I'll even remember like I remember seeing a random clip of him just like farting into a microphone and some dude just going, "I'm just so tired of you, Mick." And I'm like, this is the same guy that voice acts in JoJo Part 5. That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, Mick, he's old school Newgrounds, and I mean,
Yeah.
I can talk extensively about that, because for me, Newgrounds was really like the first community that I ever joined as a kid.
Yeah.
Like that was consistent. Like my first ever forum was before Newgrounds. I was like 11. It was for the game Golden Sun. Rest in peace, Golden Sun Odyssey. But
Mm.
the Newgrounds was like my first exposure to a consistent creative community.
Yeah.
And Mick is he's of the old guard. He's definitely among the many classic names that still can collaborate, and you see some of them working on Newgrounds collabs together, and some
Yeah.
have moved on to new ventures, completely distancing themselves from Newgrounds and even the East Coast.
Yeah. Newground. Yeah, exactly with Newground. That's a very good topic because the very first time I ever went to newgrounds.com was I was in a Sonic High at the time, and I was watching a lot of fan cartoons, and there was this one made by this dude named Chakra X. He made this cartoon called Sonic Nazo Unleashed, and me being the Dragon Ball fan that I was, I loved all the fighting and all that stuff. The drawing hasn't aged that well, but
Mhm.
Aaron Chakra, I can't remember his full name, but Chakra X, like, he's grown as an artist, definitely, and he's decided he also so I decided, yeah, I wanna see more of this, and I went to Newgrounds, and the quality was so much better because people would just, like, re-upload Newgrounds animations to YouTube, and they would look
Yeah.
terrible because of the quality, but you'd look back at Newgrounds, and you're like, "Wow, this actually looks better. Oh my god, these load like Flash games, and I used to play these things a long time ago, and they're fucking
Yeah.
amazing."
It's a shame
And
Flash is
yeah.
dead, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's a big chunk of creativity and culture was tied exclusively to the Flash platform. But fortunately, there are a number of different individuals working together to make sure that those things can still be played.
Yeah, especially with like, thankfully they do offer options to upload media like as an MP4 or
Oh
whatever the
yeah,
hell.
Newgrounds itself has evolved forward.
Yeah,
It's just the content from the old days can't all be migrated.
yeah, unfortunately. I
Yeah.
even with some of the older Sonic stuff, like there's that whole group Sonic Paradox, like they do their Sonic shorts, and sometimes they had their own collaborations. Like there's this one artist named Comic K who did this really twisted Tim Burton macabre animation called Sonic Switch, and then there's all these other weird animations like just in general that whole of course there's Zach Hadel of Psychic Pebbles and all the other people on there who have also eventually moved on to do bigger things like Studio Yada that was on there. Like they were a group of people who helped animators a lot, and now
Mhm.
they've moved on to working on one of my favorite cartoons of all time, OKKO.
Mhm.
And then you got other animators who have started somewhere. I don't know if like other animators who moved on just because like Newgrounds from what I can tell, like oh, the thing that really kills me is that YouTube really fucked over animators hardcore,
Yeah, for sure.
especially with the algorithm change where they changed it to the like because it just made it unprofitable to like
Yeah.
consistently make lawn cartoons instead of like like it's amazing when you change something from clicks to minutes watched
Yeah,
that
it has a
quickly.
dramatic impact on the quality of the platform, and I mean,
Yeah.
I believe there's a downward spiral. Though I'm regularly working on YouTube myself, I've noticed even when I own my own projects, I've put
Yeah.
this is like the stereotypical. I put so much work into this, and then this thing that I didn't put effort into, it went viral. What the hell? That's normal. but
Yeah.
it is very telling when I can sit in front of a camera for almost an hour and just tell a story, and that has, because of it being trendy
Yeah.
topic wise, it suddenly becomes like one of my most watched videos, despite it being like not even 2 months old. That's very concerning.
Yeah, there's like I remember watching a video by Penguin Zero Critical Charlie where he
Hmm.
broke down the YouTube secrets in that. Like there was a science to clickbait and all that,
Yeah.
and there's also this weird thing like in the way that you word yourself. There's like he said something to the effect of when you're asking people to subscribe, you kinda have to word it in a way if you really wanna encourage them, you have to it's word it like, "Press subscribe and click that bell," without giving you can't make it sound like they're given an option, and it's sort of a charisma thing. Like, you just sort of have
Hmm.
to dictate yourself as a leader of sorts. Like, if
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and the more you tell them to do it, the more likely like, if you tell them in that regard, they'll more likely to do it, and
Right.
it's just a game that you kinda have to, like, learn with this whole thing, like, as this YouTube thing grows and as more problems arise and more rules change and, some people just don't like, the whole COPPA situation, for example, when
I
YouTube
was
was
so
yeah.
unaffected by that. It was kind of hilarious. Like, oh, sorry for everybody else. I'm okay.
Yeah. That was a weird thing because like, the funny thing is it was like they said, "Oh, we're targeting all these other content," and they're just like, "Oh, we're putting out all these videos, blah blah blah," and like they were allowing like these really creepy kid animations to exist on the platform, and then officials had to step in and say, "Hey, YouTube, cut this shit out,"
Yeah.
and eventually people were freaking the fuck out because people were like, "Oh god, I'm gonna get fined." Until we had to realize, "Oh, no, that's not gonna happen, actually. They're just putting that out there as a threat to YouTube, really." And they just then that forced them to change things to, "No, you need to change your thing into, this is for kids, this is not for
Yeah.
kids." And granted, that did kinda screw over one animator recently, and I talked about this in that episode. It was a dude named Narmak who worked on the
Hmm.
SpongeBob animation, and then he was taken down for a moment, and the only that's the thing that really sucks about community guideline strikes or community or copyright stuff. There is no like, reaching out to YouTube is useless.
Impossible. Unless you're
It's
big,
useless.
unless you're Markiplier, they're not going to listen to you.
Yeah, you have to sort it's really come to a point of, like, you kinda have to raise a shitstorm on Twitter and get their
Yep.
attention.
Yeah, I had a long talk with Mountain Dew, who he's a famous he's a famous shit poster is the best way to describe what he does. If you've ever seen Super Spice Brothers or
Okay.
any of those kind of videos on YouTube, he makes remixes and edits and silly things, and it made him very successful. Just in terms of people watching because his content is great, but he received community guideline strikes out of nowhere and or demonetized things like that,
Yeah.
and he was screwed, but he had enough of a platform on Twitter that he was able to get them to, oh, sorry, our mistake. We didn't mean it. Well, we'll just go ahead and fix that. All right. Have a good one, Mountain Dew. You need to keep on uploading. Okay. And he's like, yeah, sorry to everyone who's got a small channel. This will never happen. If you get screwed, you're just done for.
We're sorry.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what it goes.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, but at the end of the day, YouTube is a free platform. You're
Yeah.
not paying to use it. So like I feel
Yeah.
like there's a give and take here.
Yeah.
They have the right to choose what content's there because you're not paying a subscription service unless you
True.
pay for like YouTube Red. But even that,
Yeah.
you're not paying to upload. Any other uploading site, you have to pay for more space. So YouTube has this infinite bandwidth for everybody. And, nothing's free in this world. That's just, yeah. Why do you make YouTube videos? I think is the real question people need to ask at the end
Yeah.
of the day. If you do it to support yourself financially, unless you're in a very small percentage of people who that genuinely works out for, I mean, I can pay my bills from time to time with my YouTube revenue if I have a good month, but I rely on a regular job where I
Yeah.
use my real skills in the real world rather than just YouTube videos. Because if you're doing it for that reason, like as a creator, is that fulfilling to you? My Twitter profile has always read something along the lines of inspired by dreams, fueled by passion. And if I'm not passionate about something, I'm not going to enjoy doing it nearly as much And that's kind of the spirit of like why so many of my videos I move from topic to topic on my YouTube channel. Based on how I'm feeling on a given week, but I am really passionate about those topics for like a week at least.
Yeah.
But then I have things like JoJo, which I keep coming back to, or Smash Brothers, which is like another huge part of my channel because I just love the content. You know, that's why I make it. And some people do it for different reasons. To me, it's make the video that you're interested in watching. You know, and that's my approach to the whole problem. And you know, if you make money along the way, that's nice, that's cool. But it's if that's your focus, you might as well just join, like, I don't know, get a job working at some agency instead of working like a dog on a YouTube video.
Yeah, it's definitely like one of the, because even as a working voice actor myself, who aspiring to make more content for the internet, and at one point at least like try to get another source of revenue at some point, just to build up an audience and a community. My main focus is just building a community,
Yeah.
and also mainly just, and even with that in mind, I know how, like, because I just sort of come to the realization that, like, YouTube monetization is just kind of pointless, just because they're gonna find some dumb reason to take it away from you anyway. And granted, it's nice to have when it works, or from what I heard,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah, but I'm just like, even then, I'm just like, I still make money doing other stuff. Like, I have another job where I walk dogs and stuff like that. Sometimes, you're not able to do that job when there's a goddamn situation going outside, like like, say if there's tons of smoke
I
or
mean,
people
unless
not.
like
Yeah,
Cerberus is like, unless Hades needs
yeah,
you to walk Cerberus, you're gonna be in
yeah,
a little bit of a wait there on that one.
yeah, exactly. It's like, if the air quality's not good, you probably should just wait inside. $12 for an hour for a 30-minute walk, not worth it.
It's
So,
not worth the lung disease. Yeah.
no. And yeah, exactly. Just yeah, that's definitely like really solid advice there. Definitely something a lot of creators can keep in mind, especially.
Yeah, no,
And
I'm
yeah,
glad that I'm glad that if they're
yeah,
listening and needed to hear that, if you're not already a huge YouTube star, don't let that be your motivation, because it's a rough enough game. Have a regular job to support yourself. I didn't for a little while when I changed careers, and
yeah,
I mean I focused on skills. You know, I was studying and practicing in that time, but like, if I didn't have that happening, I would have basically been doing nothing but YouTube videos. It wasn't really worth doing. Have a job.
yeah. In
Best
regards to,
advice.
yeah, yeah,
Be
yeah,
employed if you can, and if you can't, find a way to hustle and make money on your own.
yeah, yeah. Especially even if it's like something, even if it's something as little as like dog walking, like
If you gotta wash a
self-employed stuff.
car or shine some
Yeah,
shoes, man, there are some people who make a lot of money doing that.
it's a process. Yeah, maybe like, definitely like, especially if you're going through a bit of a pandemic situation, try to
Yeah.
mind social distancing and all that stuff, but yeah, just tussle in any way you can. Any cent that you make is definitely worth it, you know?
Mhm.
Speaking of passion, like, from what you said before, like, in your review of F-Zero Falcon Densetsu, or
Mm.
Legend Falcon, you gave a very passionate breakdown of how the opening theme, Meaning of Truth, hypes you up.
Oh, yeah.
Being a fan of anime openings myself, I can definitely see where you're coming from, but
Mhm.
sometimes there are openings that just kinda miss the mark or just
Mhm.
don't hit as well as others. I'm looking at you, second opening of Tokyo Ghoul. Uh, what, in your opinion, what makes an anime opening or intro so good you can't skip, and an intro so bad you do skip?
Okay, so I think the key is that drop. And I think when you say the drop, like, you know, like for F-Zero, it's the very beginning of the song is already like pretty awesome. And then like halfway through the song, it does like a second. So like the bah, bah, na, 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 from the very beginning, it's like, oh, this is exciting. And then
Yeah,
halfway through the song, it does, you know, the entire second half, and it carries that momentum, which is why I watched it 50 times.
yeah,
Attack on Titan is another very iconic example,
yep,
and to me, you know, you only get to watch the first OP for the first like 12 episodes or so, 13 maybe, of the first core of season 1. And then to me, Jiu no Tsubasa, the second opening, is actually better. And
yeah,
it's got a really moving opening, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like, oh yeah, I feel patriotic for a country that doesn't exist. Yes. And then the second half hits, and it da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like, oh, I'm feeling the emotions. It's happening. It's the drop hit. So I think that's the key. And that's just on the audio side. And I truly think that the music is the most important part because you know, the visuals can be just garbage half the time, but the song could still be good and you'll watch it. I mean, the visuals for the F-Zero opening were not groundbreaking. They were good enough. But like I just liked hearing that song. And Attack on Titan has some glorious looking openings, but it's funny how much the credits actually influence how much motion actually is on screen. Like when you look at a creditless opening, sometimes you're like, oh, there's actually not a lot going on right now. Because they want you to be able to read it. Another example of a recent anime that or anime as that's got an awesome intro is for me is the first opening of Vinland Saga, and yeah, doggy dog world. It's like oh, it's building up, and then the drop. It's like oh, I'm gonna cry. So you know, it's one of those, but like that is again, that's the build up and then the powerful drop. But then you have something that's totally whimsical and fun on the other end of the spectrum. I look at Nichijou, where both openings for Nichijou, My Ordinary Life, are just nonstop fun. And also because the visuals in that particular anime are so good. And I think when you have the perfect blend, like you're looking at one of the best OPs of all time. Attack on Titan first OP is like visually iconic, along with the song. So I mean, I know I went on a lot of different tangents on that, mostly talking about music, but I mean, obviously the opening theme of the show is the most important part to set the tone for the show. And I mean, Tokyo Ghoul, you mentioned, like, okay, well, everyone knows that. You hear it for like half a second, you know what opening that is. And yeah, you know, so that's and then there's like the less common one, like Gyokyo Bore Kaiji, Ultimate Survivor. And it's all about gambling. And that song, that show has an amazing OST, but like the first opening is like straight up the Blue Hearts, which is like, you know, throwback, like, you know, Japanese punk. And then the second opening is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and that's like Hunter levels of screamo fun. So I don't know, it's just there's a lot of answers to that question, but to me it's the quality of the music is the foremost important, because if the song is boring, you're going to skip it. It doesn't matter how pretty it is, you're going to skip it if the song isn't worth listening to every time. And it's the ultimate test is just to sit in your car with the OP on whatever music player you have. When it plays, do you hit skip? If no, then you know that's the banger.
Like I heard that, like, for let me see here. Oh yeah, like with the I'm trying to think of that.
Like the name of the show.
Oh yeah. With like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, definitely, like I would want to hear those guys, like, because there's this manga that's been like trending recently, and it's fucking awesome. It's called Chainsaw Man.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing it around.
I've heard reports of an anime in production, and like just like the chaotic horror action nature of that show, especially its emotional feel. Like those guys would be perfect for some kind of form. If they do not form some kind of song for that anime, I will be so disappointed.
Well, with that in mind, to me, the best opening of this year of shows that came out this year, if I didn't name one already, Dorohedoro was
that was a good one.
It is phenomenal. It's a flawless opening. It's built perfectly with the music, and like the band who does it is specifically a band that makes anime OPs, but it's visually so stimulating and it fits the show so perfectly. And so definitely, and I could see them doing something cool too. Chainsaw Man's got that kind of a crazy vibe. Dorohedoro is crazy.
You know. Both of the like when it comes to anime, when it comes to stuff like that, those two shows, I mainly heard about both of those shows, both Dorohedoro and Chainsaw Man, the manga series, through another YouTuber named Super Eyepatch Wolf. Does various video breakdowns and all that stuff about various types of content, and he's also a JoJo fan of sorts. And Yeah, like, when it comes to and adding to anime openings, like, there's also this other thing with openings where, like, say you have an anime show like One Piece or whatever, where people will, like the anime will slap and all that stuff, especially with its opening and all that, with its really fucking badass song, like, Over the Top, I'll listen to 1,000 times and over because I just love the song that much. But
Mm.
then you get people who'll say, like, "Oh, there's so many manga spoilers in here." I'm like, "Guys, it doesn't make sense as a spoiler if you don't know the context."
Yeah, yeah. Like some of them do a bad job at being like not so obvious. If you have a very observant viewer, they'll pick up on them,
Yeah.
but the average person will not go, "Oh my god," until like they've gotten through that much of the series and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that was oh my god. They were telling me from the beginning." Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Caesar.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
One of my friends, he picked up on that right away. He's like, "Oh, that guy's gonna die, huh?" And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
sorry for the part 2 spoilers, guys.
Well, they've had plenty of time to watch it. It's been, like,
Yeah,
how many years since it came out? Like,
it's the 80s.
yeah.
You got time. Dorohedoro is also actually a very old series. Manga's been around a long time.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I watched it. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. So far, my anime of the year
Yeah.
for
When it
2020.
speaking of, like, adaptation and all that, that's a cool I think that's a really good advantage to have when your manga's been around for a while because
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to actually just, keep your pace and take your time and not
Uh-huh.
have to, like, bag on a shit ton of filler or rush things through just to meet a deadline or what well, no, deadlines are still there just 'cause, the way
Yeah, you have
the
the weekly
animation
deliveries
Yeah,
for
and
both the mangaka and for the animators.
yeah, exactly, but that's the advantage, like, take another s but then there are some shows out there that, like, have adaptations, like that like a very solid manga story like Berserk, for example, like
Yeah,
a very solid thing. The 1997 anime, I've seen bits and pieces of it, like, I've
it's
seen,
good.
like, the first couple it's a yeah, pretty solid story. It has limited animation, but it works with it very well. Like, it's not immersion breaking. It's like with
Yeah,
JoJo
yeah.
where they find a way to use unique directing and art
Mm.
style to work with it. Like, they'll use maybe, like, a painted face of Guts, like, going berserk,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
making it work in style, but then you also have other adaptations, like the 2016 anime series, which is terrible. I hate it, and I
Berserk
want it to
again.
die, and
Yeah.
I want it to die, and
Yeah. And
so,
then you have
like
something in
yeah.
between, the beautiful golden age movies,
Yeah.
which were I watched the movies for the first time actually this year, and all 3 of them. And I was like, this is how it should have been. You know, this is the way to
Yeah.
do it. And they skipped some non-essential plot, but I mean, it's if you've already read the manga, this is a great like this is the way to go.
Yeah, and when it comes to stuff like that, in terms of limited I'll even say this, I wanna make something very clear, limited animation is necessary, especially if you're airing something on TV, like, that's the
Yeah.
reason why a lot of those Hanna-Barbera shows existed in the first
Yeah, they
place.
were assembly line productions.
Yeah, they had to do it's like you because 'cause there's no fucking way you can run a full animated series, film grade animation on a weekly schedule, it's just not doable.
No, it's impossible. I mean,
Yeah,
you want to look at a movie that went full a feature film, Redline, which is all hand drawn every frame, and
yeah,
that took like over 7 years to make. That's not going to be on a weekly basis. I'll tell you that much. And I think even as a creator myself, I have often had to ask myself, what's my production limitation if I have a week to make something, which is always again my deadline is always 7 days. I treat
yeah,
like a South Park episode, I get done in usually a week, and I have a personality that sits and edits the entire time. I don't stop until I have to stop, or I finish the project in one sitting. My most recent video, as we're recording, was a video about the new Zelda Hyrule Warriors, and I only bring that up. I produced that entirely in an afternoon.
right.
It was more like from like 6-7 hour turnaround
Yeah.
because production wise it's a lot easier than other stuff I've worked on,
Yeah. I've definitely been in that situation before where, like, my videos just take too long to make because
yeah
a lot of it because I usually underestimate how long it does, and I'm like, "Oh, a video essay about how much I love English dubs? This'll maybe, like, take a month or 2 a month, 3 months later. Wow, this is, That took a while, and now as I recorded, I just finished rendering it, and I'm like,
Right.
"Geez, that took longer than I thought." Because it's like a process of writing the script, and then you have the recording, and then you have to split up the audio, put it out, get the footage, border it to make sure that YouTube's copyright bots don't mess with it, and yeah, it's just, it was just I was not I like doing this stuff, I love talking passionately about this stuff, but it's
Yeah.
hard to maintain it because you underestimate how long it's gonna take. Do you ever have a foresight or sixth sense where you're like, "Okay, I think I know how long this is gonna be, I could probably get this done in a week," or do you just sort of
Yeah, yeah.
gamble
I
it?
I've only ever made the mistake once where it was like a really bad underestimation. Only once, and it was actually that same project I talked about earlier, the Phantom Blood Until We Eternally Rest fan dub.
Mhm.
Again, I made it. It was part of my October thing. Every October, I do some Phantom Blood or Castlevania esque content, just because thematically it fits. One time I did a reading of Dracula, but I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. This is gonna be cool. Oh, it's a comic dub. I've done a million of those. Yeah, it'll take me a couple days. I got 3 days. It's fine. I worked so hard in those 3 days that it was the first time I ever had to delay a release of a video to Sunday. Normally I release on Saturday mornings, and
Yeah.
I did not consider how much work that particular project, and truth be told, it was so traumatic working
Wow.
on it in such an intense, because again, I've self-imposed my limitations of making it like a week turnaround. Like nobody makes me do that. I do it by choice.
Yeah.
But having done so many comic dubs, I got cocky and I was, yeah, I'll just, I'll edit it, I'll record it, got blah, blah, boom. I got all the stuff recorded already. Let's do this. Oh my God, it's already been 3 days and I'm not done. Oh God, I worked on it for like 40 hours across those 3 days. And, 40 hours is a work week. I did
Yeah.
that in 3 days, just editing this comic dub. So I was just like, oh man, I have to delay. And I did, because otherwise it would be incomplete. And I released it the following day. I mean, people like it. I like it. But
Yeah.
again, it was such an overwhelming I overestimated my speed because I did not think about how many panels and pages were actually in that manga. And
Yeah.
even with me only doing like 1/4 of it, like I just
Yeah.
normally my stuff is like 3-4 pages, not 30. So that was the mistake. But otherwise, I have a pretty confident idea of how long things take. If I know it's something that I'm planning special, I'll give myself like 2 months notice. Like, all right, you're gonna make this video. It's coming out around then. Get to work starting at this day. I'm very good with managing deadlines, enough that I can say, I haven't thought of a video for this week. Oh, it's Wednesday. Oh, it's Thursday. Oh, got my video idea. Let's do this. Boom, turn it out. And that's just my personal production hustle, because I found my own way to make it work. And it's definitely like it's project to project different. Like JoJovania, that is something that if I have a clear, concise vision for what I'm doing, I can do relatively quickly, but it's going to take a lot of editing time. Going through between original assets are one of the bigger parts of that. Like JoJovania has like the original sprites that I made for Jonathan Joestar, and the sequel had the original manga panels for Simon Belmont, as well as a custom opening, as if he was. It was basically like I recut and we edited the intro from Rondo of
Yeah.
Blood to be Castlevania. I'm sorry, to be JoJo themed, and it worked.
Yeah.
It was fun, but again, it just depends on the nature. You get a feel for it. I think
Right.
anybody who has any sense of time management figures it out eventually.
Yeah. And then with regards to that, like, and just in terms of, like, just production and all that stuff, or even just various other things regarding video games and whatnot, because I can tell even, like, looking at Stanpai, like, you start with the Switch logo and stuff like that. You mentioned
Yeah.
earlier that you're big into Smash, and, so in regards to, like, one of my favorite videos that I saw, because I did a podcast with Martin Liss earlier, like, in the week,
Hmm.
where he's also a big JoJo fan, and
Hmm.
we were talking about, like, possibilities like, "Hey, like, what if JoJo what if I mean, what if what if F-Zero had like another future game, and he sort of went on this tangent of like saying like Nintendo probably wouldn't want to risk it just because like they made a big gamble on it.
Yeah,
And
they already blew their load in 2003.
yeah, and then hearing your idea of a battle royale game, like just I thought it was a very interesting one. Like you also mentioned how like Smash could really help push for a game like that, like because
Absolutely.
yeah, and like because like look at like Fire Emblem, like people were like, "What the fuck is a Fire Emblem?" And they just
They didn't even say that much. They like didn't even know what the word Fire Emblem was, man.
Yeah.
Like it didn't exist here in the West, you know. This guy's like, "Mina, mitete kure." What? What did he just say?
Yeah.
I don't know what he said, bro. I don't speak Spanish. Like
And so looking at Banjo and Fire Emblem trailers, like just and how it can spark ideas for saying, "Hey, maybe we should make another game." It call me curious. How do you think like possibly adding characters from the F-Zero franchise like Black Doom or maybe Samurai Gore? I know he's already an assistant trophy, but hey,
yeah.
Little Mac was so
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a huge Punch-Out fan, I might add. I
Yeah.
love Punch-Out, and I have a couple of Punch-Out videos on my channel, but go check them out, guys. Punch-Out Mon. Anyway, that was actually an original animation. I do those sometimes too. But throwing that aside, the biggest problem that F-Zero has with having a representative in Smash is the same issue with the original Captain Falcon moveset. F-Zero is a racing game, and it's really not something that has a proper adaptation for an in-person, in-your-face kind of thing. And Star Fox is the same way. They've managed to make a moveset for several characters because they all just are you know, variations of Fox McCloud's moveset. But Captain Falcon himself is like already set in stone. Ganondorf has the other half of his moveset as a clone. So Black Shadow is already Ganondorf. Like that's what his moveset would be. It's just it's they would make it the same thing as Ganondorf. So just leave Ganondorf there and don't touch him. I'm not sure how Smash could, other than by promoting it. Like, you wouldn't add a character, but you could certainly add a stage or a track or some spirits just to get people excited. But the biggest thing is Captain Falcon as a brand. You know, it's not even an F-Zero brand. A lot of people don't know what the word F-Zero means, but they know Captain Falcon by name. So if you say like it's a Captain Falcon game, which the tirade at the end of my video, I went off, and that was all one take. It was not written. It was like really, I went off.
Yeah. I feel that like some Call Me Johnny did something similar when he did Sonic Forces. Like he was saying like get some new blood in your veins, and then he did that all in one button. I'm like, wow, you really want another game.
It's just like when you feel it in your heart, the words they come out on their own. You know, I mean, that's really dramatic to be talking about a video game like that. But I mean, you know, video games for me are my favorite medium. I mentioned before, passion. On the note of like, I've always distinguished my videos, whether it's an anime video or a gaming video, particularly in the Nintendo. You mentioned the Stanpai Switch thing. I try to make my intros match the kind of content it's about. So like Danganronpa is a specific series that I've made content for, and I'm very much attached to as an IP. So like I've got a custom Danganronpa opening, which I almost never use, but when I make a Danganronpa video, there's the Danganronpa, but instead it says Stanpai, you know.
Nice.
So yeah, and like I made sprites for it just because I really love that series, and you know, the Castlevania stuff I did one too, and that ended up being kind of cheesy. Then I made a new one with the Jonathan Joestar version, and I think I'd go with that. So yeah, I mean, but that's sorry, bring it back. I tangented really hard, but
no problem.
The F-Zero in Smash thing, I think Smash needs to be the marketing tool rather than the putting a character in Smash. Just use Smash as a marketer, and that's enough to get people to buy it. I mean, when you throw a brand that you recognize in, like, it's just that simple, you know. Oh, Captain Falcon, he's on the box. I'm gonna play that. Yeah, I love Captain Falcon. They're gonna be like, what is this? I don't know how to race. What the hell is an F-Zero? Boost power? Like what?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen people ask for like an open world beat 'em up bounty hunter game with Captain Falcon, and like that sounds cool and all. They're just asking for a Cowboy Bebop game. That's what they're actually asking for when they say that.
Like a Yakuza.
That's like literally when you say you want an open world space bounty hunting game, you're just asking for Cowboy Bebop with a Captain Falcon skin.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah, it'd be like Star Wars Battlefront meets Yakuza or something.
Yeah, for sure. I would say Mass Effect would probably be more apt, but absolutely. Mass Effect, it's a shame. It's great. The first 3 games, even the ending being as controversial as it was, I very much liked Mass Effect. I think most
Yeah.
people did.
Yeah. In regards to while on the topic of Smash, like
Yeah.
there's some fighters out there, like there's some new fighters that have gotten some flack from players, and like just like where the like at the moment of announcement, like, oh, really?
Yeah,
Another one of these guys?
I was rough on Byleth. I certainly I made God, I made my Masahiro Jokerai video,
Uh-huh.
which is explicitly because I was so like. First, I'm famous for a couple things. Aside from the JoJovania, I also am famous for making original Metal Gear Solid codec calls for Smash characters.
Right.
So like Isabelle meets Solid Snake, Inkling meets Solid Snake, and so on. And I made one for Byleth the day Byleth was announced, and it was like it's a 12-second video. You know, all the normal bells and whistles. It starts up, the two of them are on the screen, and Snake just goes. And that's the end of the video. Like there's no dialogue. It's just I was so off put by another Fire Emblem character, and admittedly, respect for a unique moveset that features the whole plethora of Fire Emblem weapons, but we've got so many at this point, like we can cut enough of them. That's the only reason I think it felt so bad, just because like how many more do you need? You know, so that's where the Jokerai video, I felt so angry about it. I made a whole animation. I mean, I cut corners on the lip syncing, but
right.
I mean, I was just angry. I needed to vent it, you know, so I chose to be creative.
Yeah, but from a marketing standpoint, I do know why they did it, because it
100%.
Yeah, because like Three Houses was like Game of the Year material at the time, and they said let's get Byleth in there, and I was like,
understand the reasoning, you
but
know.
I also get why people don't like it. I'm like, really, another fucking Starfighter? All right.
Well, I think the other thing is also that you start off strong with Joker, and then you follow that up with fucking Hero, then Banjo, then Terry, and like clearly this is the first time I've dropped an F-bomb on this entire show, and it was like, and then you close out with Byleth, and it's like, oh, why whimper? Why close with a whimper? And again, like, you know, original character cannot criticize. Same thing with Corrin. Corrin's a very original character, but when you have already added new Fire Emblem characters, piss off already.
Yeah,
that's the argument I think most people felt, and
right.
I'm over it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like ARMS a lot. So like Min Min was a good reveal.
Yeah.
I made a video about that too. Everything I like, I make a video about. So in that case, like why Min Min was the right choice and others weren't is the title of the video. And it was, you know, Min Min's a good fit. I'm not a super big fan of how she plays because it's so stupid. I was playing ARMS a lot at that time and prior. So like when I switched to playing her in Smash, her reach is less than it is in ARMS. And I was like, man, this is bogus, you know? Because in ARMS, it's like across the football field. And then here I am in Smash, and it's like not far enough to be accurate to ARMS. And so I'm like, sucks, you know? Even though it's like, for Smash terms, it's huge. But in ARMS terms, it wasn't. So I was just like, well, forget this. Not legit. Sorry, Sakurai. You dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah.
So first DLC character I didn't like Joker very much, but that's personal.
Right. But, you know, I'm a little biased just because female Byleth is I stay in female Byleth. Well, as soon as I saw her appear in Three Houses and just like her design and all that, I'm like, oh, she looked nice.
yeah. A lot of people are on that boat with you.
But and so one final question before we close out.
Okay.
Whether in your creative life or your personal life, what was the most difficult thing you've gone through, and how'd you overcome it?
There have been quite a few different times. I think I'm gonna go with the choice to be true to yourself with what you do and what you make and why you make it. You know, there are personal instances I could talk about, and you know, I think I'll give it a very specific example of something that we didn't talk about at all during this show, but is such a huge part of what I do in the community that I'm a part of, which is Otamad, and specifically Gachimuchi Pants Wrestling.
Right.
For those who don't know what that is, if you I don't know, if you type in Gachimuchi, it's spell it like it sounds, you'll find it probably. If you've heard the name Billy Harrington, Aniki, Van Darkholm, those names, that's what this is. But there's a point where you have to really like decide what matters more to you. The making stuff that you enjoy and that you find worth sharing, or making stuff that's profitable or more on brand for a partnership with some real company down the line. And to me, I cannot stress enough how much Gachimuchi Pants Wrestling, because of how funny and quirky and bizarre it is, how much it benefited me in times where I was just really sad or needed to pick me up. And I think for everybody who gets involved with that sort of thing, it's like the same thought process. But you're also remixing and looking at clips of out of context porno. Like it's like out of context, like guys slapping each other on the ass and stuff. And so if you show this to the wrong person, like they're gonna, give you a weird attitude about it. Like they're gonna start saying stuff about you or whatever. And I mean, to me, your show is got the title it does, and I guess that's why I'm a good fit for it. I mean, I love doing what I do. I love performing. And there are times, in that aspect, I've had to make decisions that are tough. But when it comes to deciding what to create, I mean, we really mostly talked about me as a creator rather than as an actor. And that's like a whole separate experience.
Right.
But as a creator, the decision to continue to make content that is not always going to be appropriate for all audiences, like the gotchi stuff, is just, to me, it is such a valuable piece of my identity and the identity of all the people who I've met and worked with. Shout outs to the Obama family, for example. Most people hear that, they think President Obama. I'm not talking about President Obama. I'm talking about Obama Chavez from Gachimuchi lore. When I say Yugami Nena, like the people in my community know what I'm saying. And there's this philosophy that I could talk so much about that comes behind like all this crazy, stupid, wacky, Japanese, quirky editing thing I'm talking about, right? When you get beyond the superficial of this visual style and this over-the-top overstimulation of your senses, and you see what the thematic value is underneath it, you find something that's very, very important and emotional, and it has, for many people, not just myself, been a beacon of personal like salvation from sadness, or helping them find a reason to get in shape, or in the case of one of the actors himself, I mean, it brought him out of addiction because he realized he had to live up to an expectation of fans online, and it changed him from being a guy who was kind of living out the later years of an otherwise inappropriate adult entertainment career. It let him be somebody again, and so, I mean, I could talk about it, like I said, at length. Just, you hear these things like Yugami Nena, and you say that to people who know what you're talking about, and they say it right back because you're telling each other, like, you're not messed up, you're not twisted, it's acceptance. And there are so many other philosophies, but Yugami Nena is the most important one, I'd say. And, so you could talk about it like me and choose to keep making videos about it and cover it and share it with people, and make it into something, profound. Or you could be one of the other people who's like, bro, it's just gay porn. Stop making such a big deal about it. It's not that. And I mentioned Mountain Dew. I talked with him a lot about this in our interview. It was a 3-hour conversation, and like at least 2 hours of it was about this, which I mean, it says a lot. So, I mean, I'm talking about all these strange things right now. And for those watching, I'm sorry that there's no visual concept of what the hell he's talking about, but I did at one point in my life face conflict from someone in real life who was very, very like judgmental and genuinely cruel and nasty to me about its existence. Like they went so far as to like throw personal relationships. It's like, what would so and so think if they saw this? Oh, it's and it's just like that was probably one of the hardest moments. It's just like, bro, I can't believe that I'm being talked to like this. Like somebody's trying to take something that they know nothing about and turn it into something else. and make it into something that they can try to use as a negative. So to me, I'd say, yeah, being true to yourself, even if it's a little weird, you know, if you're not hurting anybody else, that's always like at the end of the day kind of been my go-to. You're not hurting anybody by doing this. Okay. You're not hurting yourself. Okay. Are you having a good time? Yes. Are you putting smiles on people's faces? Yes. Well, maybe it's all right then. You know, if if the guys from Jackass can do what they did for how many years and get paid on TV to do it, you know, I think me making a silly video of a guy spanking some other guy is okay. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bit of a winded answer, but as a creator, I think definitely just kind of living up to your own personal expectations and what matters to you, and no matter who gives you grief about it, because and I'm sure you've probably dealt with this too as an actor. I mean, when you say you want to be an actor, somebody tells you like, you want to be an actor? Like, you know how hard that is? You know how unlikely it is that you'll succeed? You know, like you hear stuff like that all the time in this, and it's so competitive too. Like, you have all the reasons not to do it, but if it's what you believe in, you know, and
it's like,
you do it, you know, and that was the same thing when I changed my career. I was doing other stuff and I said, no, I'm going to be an actor, because I had one of those moments where I realized this is really what I want. You know, I'm done playing it safe. I want to do the thing that I care about.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So yeah, there's an answer to my question on the creator side. The actor side, just like I mentioned, you know, just making that decision to go for it is always hard. But I think, you know, you yourself did the same thing. So you know, and any actor who's listening to this knows what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not necessarily like pushback or anything. Well, it's mainly just for other reasons, just because I've also mentioned this in a previous podcast, but mainly just because I think the pushback comes just from like, we're still in this developmental stage where we're trying to like encourage more POC voice actors to be able to audition, and a lot of them don't get the same opportunities just because there's a lot
Absolutely.
of and that's something that it's because like the fire is inside me. Like it's always been there. And when it comes, like, I've always had this passion to do acting and whatnot, and when it comes to performing, like, I've worked like two day jobs before, and like I made like maybe fine money, like for the most part, but it wasn't enough to buy a house or anything, you know.
Right.
And
It was surviving California money.
yeah, and well, I mean, I also live with my parents still, so there's that.
Hey
But
man,
also,
dude, nothing wrong with that. That is, you know, but I mean, even then, like, still, it's like expensive. You know,
exactly.
Life is expensive.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'll figure it out. And I'm doing dog walking now, as I said before, but it's like, it doesn't make as much, but I'm like, I feel happier doing this, and I don't care how long it takes me to do it. And if I can keep auditioning consistently, and I have a job where I voice in a podcast every now and then, and I make money from that, that can add up over time, and I'll just take what I can get, you know? You'll figure it out. It's like,
For sure.
it really is just like from what you said before, it really is like what you value, what you're passionate about, being realistic, but also like just making sure, like, if you're happy doing this, just then find a way to make it, like, you'll find a way to make it work.
Absolutely.
If you're not happy doing it, then why are you doing it?
Right. No, I think that's the truth. Like, people who have the drive and the passion, like, at the end of the day, if you did everything you could and put everything on the field, and I mean, I think, you know, playing sports helps. Like, I played football, and there was always that mentality. We lost every single game. I will make that known. 4 years of high school, we lost every single game. But if you put everything you had into your experience, like, you can't blame yourself. Like, well, you know what? I did everything I possibly could, and if it doesn't work out, you have no regrets, but you did it, you know. And to kind of address the thing you mentioned just about the opportunities, you know, to me, I grew up listening to Phil Lamar in Samurai Jack, in Metal Gear Solid, and in Futurama, playing 3 characters of very different background and colors. And, you know, so to me, you know, it's never been a question of, are people worthy of even given the chance? And I think people need to like really recognize that opportunity, everyone needs to be given that opportunity. Everybody who has like the love and the drive to do this. Yeah, I think they misunderstood. Like, well, I mean, this person's in this person's in that, but they don't, like you said, they don't get to even go to the audition.
Yeah.
So like that's
Yeah.
why there's a barrier, and it is starting to definitely change. I think for the better. Anime, I think,
Yeah.
was a big part of that. Like there's a big wall in anime for the color of the rainbow of who's in the recording booth to
Yeah.
change. But
Yeah.
I think we're on the way. We're definitely on the way there
Yeah.
to things being more inclusive.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I'll touch on this very briefly without mentioning names. Like it's also the same thing with any actor who is of the LGBT community. They also
Mhm.
get a lot of gatekeeping as well. But not going to get too much into detail with that. But they also deserve just as many opportunities as anybody else does. And yeah, it
Yeah.
is definitely something that has to be worked on and has to be improved over time. And we're definitely pushing for it. We're definitely trying our best to make sure things have progress. And
Yeah.
yeah.
At the end of the day, the business has always been who you know, and then combining that with what you can do. And so, until people that we know that would facilitate the ideas that we're talking about are the ones making casting decisions, that's what you really are waiting for. You're waiting to see changes in leadership, either on the personal level or swapping out people entirely. But there's definitely a more open-mindedness, I think, moving forward that wasn't always there.
Yeah.
So that's great. Yeah.
Any final words you want to close out on?
Yeah, I'm curious, and maybe it's because it's your stage name or it's just your name. I want to know about your name, Kai. Like, where does Kai come from? What's is it short for anything, and what's the origin?
Oh, well, Kai is just Kai, Kai,
Yeah.
and my dad, my parents just, I guess they knew I guess they just thought the name wasn't as common, so they just decided to pick that out. I mean, I like the name. I haven't changed it at all.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool.
And I found out a lot of my favorite a lot of my anime shows tend to have that name.
Yeah.
Like King Kai has it,
Of
and
course, yeah.
Supreme Kai has it. And
Yeah.
there's a show called Dragon Ball Kai, and then there's
Yeah.
it's a really badass name for the most part, and I'm cool with it.
Very cool, man. Well, okay, so I was just curious if there was any like history to it. Like names are such an interesting part of
Yeah.
our identity. The ones that we pick for ourselves and the ones we're given. So I was curious about that. But
Although
bringing
there-
it. Oh,
Although
sorry. Go ahead.
There is a story with my screen name because it's evolved through many years. I'd say that I started off with it started off as One Cat 294. It was like my very first YouTube channel, and
Mhm.
it was like a combination of a nickname like not nickname as in like the moniker, like literally space name because Nickelodeon.com. And I named it One Cat 294 because I was watching Cat Scratch. So
Yeah.
there's that. And then I used that screen name for a while. But I realized, using a name with just numbers in it and a name is boring. I need to change
Yeah.
this.
Don't do it.
And I was watching Don't Judge Me. I was watching Sword Art Online at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna combine my name with the main characters, and
Oh, okay.
Kirito and Kirikai became a thing. So
I understand. Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess just in the interest of fairness, I will explain now that I've put you on the spot here.
all right.
Yeah, I'm Stan. My name is Stanley, right? Just real name. But I became Stanpai because I worked with anime communities in school, and because I was one of the upperclassmen, I was a senpai, so I just kind of became Stanpai, and I've been that ever since. But if, as a quick plug for those who do want to check out what I do, if you type in Stanpai, Stanpai, you could find me on pretty much any platform where content is uploaded. Though on Twitter and Instagram, it's at the Manly Stanley, because that was so clever in high school. I stuck with it. And so, yeah, but you just type in Stanpai and you'll find whatever it is you're looking for related to my work. If what you've heard today was of interest to you, I hope you will say hello.
And with that in mind, that's going to be a wrap for our show. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for our show. Thank you for listening, and remember to wear your strangeness and nerdy heart with pride. Take care.
Thanks for having me.